When many race fans create lists of greatest F1 drivers to never become world champion, near the top of that list is almost always Gilles Villeneuve. Nearly as exciting to watch drive by himself as he was to watch battle on track, Gilles is remembered fondly the world over for his style of driving, which brought a car to its limit and sometimes even over it. It's no surprise, then, that Canadians have named their most famous F1 track after their beloved hero. But Montreal circuit tends to punish harshly any driver who dares drive past their limits. We'll see who toes the line as we get ready to watch Round 9 of the Lotus 49 World Cup. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Johan Vandenveld. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Johan, this is one of those street courses that tends to put on a good show year after year. Tell us a little bit more about the track.
Located in the middle of the St. Lawrence River in Montreal, Canada, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve is arguably one of the best street circuits ever made. The track is located on a man-made island that was originally built for the Expo in 1967, and this island was heavily featured as well during the 76 Summer Olympics. You can still see the rectangular basing parallel to the back straight that was used for rowing and canoeing events. A few years later, in 1978, F1 decided to move the Canadian Grand Prix from the Circuit of Motorsports to the St. Lawrence River. And since that move, the track has hosted the F1 race almost 40 times, with the only races in 1987 and 2009 lacking on the calendar. The track, as you say, Joe, is characterized as a street circuit with barriers located close to the asphalt, waiting to punish even the slightest mistake of drivers. The most famous of these corners is, of course, the Wall of Champions, the tight chicane at the end of the track with two high curbstones that might send the drivers to an unforgiving wall. In the last 20 years, several of the best F1 drivers have hit this wall, like Hill, Schumacher, Villeneuve, Button, and Sebastian Vettel. Now, the drivers will lap the track 20 times today in a race where concentration and making sure not to make any mistakes will be key. So to see how they should tackle the Canadian street circuit, let's hop on board our GSRC LOTUS 49 for a lap around Circuit Gilles Villeneuve.
All right, we're in the GSRC LOTUS 49, so let's do a lap around Montreal. With the Senna S, you really have to swing the car in from the opposite side to line up the braking better. You'll see that a lot on this lap. There's a few lines you can take through this chicane hairpin combo, but I prefer an aggressive entry and then squaring off the exit. Applying the power will be tricky on this uphill curve. Then, brake early as you come into turn 3. Be careful with the wall on the exit because it'll be incredibly easy to clip it if the tail snaps loose while getting to the gas. 5 is flat out in pretty much all modern race cars, but in the 49 you need a big lift through here. Make sure and pull the car back to the right and stomp the brakes for 6. Once again, the lack of downforce on this older car makes accelerating painstakingly hard. Feather it as you come onto the backstretch and then get yourself ready for the braking into 8. The long braking distances of this car means you're on the binders way before you come to the bridge. Try not to climb over these white sausage curbs too much because they'll make the car bounce around and cost you valuable time you could use to get on the throttle. Now, as we head up the casino hairpin, even though this is still a good place to pass, you're once again swinging the car across the track to line up your braking. Your exit will also be very different in this car and sort of counterintuitive. I try to hug the inside even as I come off the corner because there's a little rise here. If the wheel isn't perfectly straight, it'll come out from under you. I've never experienced that in any other car on iRacing, and just goes to show the incredible power inside this beast of a machine. As we fly along the fastest straight of the circuit, hold to the left and spot your brake marker. The Wall of Champions poses the same threat it always does, and I found it's best to run tight on the first apex in order to open up the second one. From there, you simply accelerate to the line, and hopefully you've now finished a lap around Montreal.
Should give you an idea just how narrow it can be between those walls at some parts of this track. Qualifying is happening currently out on the circuit, so while we wait for drivers to get some times on the board for us to talk about, why don't we take a look at the Drivers' Championship. Up at the top is Mick Claridge. Now, to throw a wrench into things, Mick has been injured recently. He has injured his wrist and tailbone in a biking accident, so that could make him a little bit slower. We'll find out today what kind of pace he's got. Billy Bob Wright slips farther behind with Mick's dominance continuing this season, and then Michel Dudagnon continues to slip down as well since he has not been showing up lately. Ove Trangrade raises up into the top 5, and Benjamin Zocco slips to the bottom of our graphic. There's also the Formula 2 championship that they run in this series. Johan, what's that look like?
Hideki Koivisto has been continuing his superb run from the last weeks, and look at that gap at the moment, 13 points in front of number 2 Matt Wright. Now, Matt had a good race last time around in Indianapolis, gained 2 positions and overtook Eugenio Massa, who stayed in 3rd place. Andrew Eng didn't have a good race, he even missed the one in Indianapolis. He was forced down 2 positions to P4, and the last driver in this graphic is Don Tell Me Something Good that will be back today.
They also keep track of the Nations Cup in this series, so let's take a look at where that stands. Of course, the UK with Mick Claridge bringing in a ton of points this season is up at the top, ahead of the United States, who's been doing very well with a number of drivers coming in. Morrison, Engelage, Wright, and Kemp contributing to that. Finland as well has a lot of drivers in there, but just doesn't have the talent in this series, surprisingly, with the amount of fast drivers they have in that nation. Australia sits in 4th, and France was up towards the top earlier on, but continues to fall backwards due to not showing up lately to contribute over there. Now, we might have viewers who haven't seen the Lotus 49 World Cup before. Johan, what are we in store for today?
Well, the new viewers will probably have missed something in this series, because it has been a very good one, this championship. We are at round 9 of 12 rounds. We have 2 drop weeks this championship. That means that the 2 worst results of each driver will be taken away from the final standings position, as marked by those 2 water drops. The race today will be 20 laps around the circuit Gilles Villeneuve with open setups. That means that drivers can twist the knobs all to their liking. We have a new point scoring table as well, as you can see at the bottom, with 40 points going to the driver that grabs the win today.
Now, as we watch Dave Price, we might want to switch over to Mick Claridge, because his first lap did not count. He must have had an off. So unfortunately, he is under the gun. He's coming down the backstretch. If he has to start from the back, that'll make his woes even worse. He's approaching the final chicane, where we've got that wall of champions waiting to collect anybody who pushes that little bit too far. He does not, and he comes to the start-finish line. Is this one going to count for Mick? It does. A 1:34.6 is good enough only for 6th place, though. That's not as high as we're used to seeing from Mick.
Wow, yeah, we were talking before about his injury, and well, it's guesswork at this point, but you might see that it has a big factor on Mick Claridge, because yeah, he's currently even pushed down 2 positions more in 8th position. That's not a place where we see him normally. On the screen at the moment, Michael Morrison. He's another driver that hasn't put any time yet in the books out there. Coming through the last chicane now, this will be his first timed lap. He's swinging to the outside to probably set himself up for a better run the second time around. He does a 35.1, currently in P10.
Matt Wood gets himself onto the front row behind our driver who has gone to the pole, Ove Trangrade. Now, this is great news for Ove, who tends to have the pace to challenge Mick, but just has not been able to overcome him lately. So this is going to be a potential good points haul for the Norwegian today, if he can take it from pole to flag.
Yeah, exactly. Ove Trangrade has been doing superb in the last weeks, almost every time being able to put the fight to the lead cars. But yeah, with Mick falling a little bit behind and currently 4/10 in front of P2, Ove Trangrade is looking very solid for today. Now, Matt Wood as well, he's doing great work so far. Now, this season as well, the Lotus 49 and Lotus 79 have a joint championship in which they drive the same schedules, and the results will be combined in a combined championship. Now, Matt Wood is actually leading that championship, so the fact that he gets P2 here in qualifying today is also good for his championship aspirations in the combined championship.
Watching Eugenio Massa, who has both of his laps in. The only driver left to get his final lap is Michael Morrison, and I'm not sure this is going to be a good one that he's on, actually. So it's going to be a little tight as he comes through the final chicane. I just think he's a little too far behind. Morrison currently sits in 10th, so as that violet machine crosses the line, yep, he is indeed slower. This is going to be our starting grid for round 9 today. Ove Trangrade is on the pole with Matt Wood in second next to him. Dave Price, great qualifying from him to put himself into third. Ginés Ruiz Nunez will be in fourth, followed by Benjamin Zocco in fifth. Richard Morin, wow, what a qualifying from Richard. He tends to be a little bit farther down the order, but he's going to start in the sixth today. Gary Teal behind him in seventh. Mick Claridge, as we documented his troubles with his injury, is under the gun. He's starting eighth. Matt Wright will begin in ninth, with Michael Morrison rounding out our top 10.
In the double one position, it's that Formula 2 championship leader at the moment, Hideki Koivisto. He starts his car next to Eugenio Massa. Tony Tiolis starts his home race in P13 next to Andres Bruno. Maximilian de Meirik is the last driver with a timed lap, doing a 1:37.9 to start in 15th. And then there are 3 drivers that didn't set a qualifying time. Don Good, Johnny Bell, and Robert Reynolds will start at the back of the field.
Now, we mentioned Mick Claridge's mistake having an off on his first lap. That's not going to be an uncommon one. The cut course penalties here, Johan, they can be brutal.
Yeah, especially, and I would almost argue the drivers to really take care of that first laps, because if you take an off-track and a cut course penalty in that first lap, that can send you all the way from the front of the field to far in last place. So it's really important, really essential to keep your car on the asphalt, maybe even more than normal, because not only those cut corner penalties are waiting for you, also the walls around the track.
There we see the grid as our wire cam zooms its way down. Just waiting on Ove Trangerade and a couple others at this point, as the car is idle there on the grid. It's a short run down to the first corner, but it is a tricky first corner at this circuit. Cars notoriously tangle up quite a bit in all levels of racing. As the rest of the drivers reach the grid now, lights come up, engines start to rev. Green flag is out here in round 9 of the Lotus 49 World Cup. Ove Trangerade with an excellent start. Matt Wood under threat from Dave Price for second place. The accordion together down into the Senna S. So far, everything looking very clean. And I think we're going to make it through that first chicane.
Yeah, everything good so far. Gary Teal had a good start, moving up 1 position. Richard Morin, we were talking about him, didn't have a good start. He lost 2 positions going through the first few corners.
And Matt Wood was able to fend off Dave Price through that left-right. Now they head through turn 6, mostly single file. Saw a bit of a peek from Mick Claridge on Gary Teal, but he can't quite make his way around. As they come to the Riverside Straight, there's a string of cars actually behind Gary Teal.
Yeah, a little bit of Teal train. Oh, Mick Claridge tries a move, is squirming on the braking. Gets his car stopped on time though, but he loses a lot of time and is immediately under pressure by Richard Morin behind him.
Yeah, that really stacked things up. Matt Wright is back there, Michael Morrison. They come to one of the ideal passing places here into the casino hairpin. And I think we got our first slowdown penalty as Michael Morrison moves well to the back of that train.
Yeah, he has his work completely cut out for him now. He is still in front of Maximilian de Meirik and Robert Reynolds, but he has lost a lot of time there. Immediately tries to make a move on Don Good. Ooh, Dave Price all the way in front. You saw the rear or the tires of him locking up, almost running into the back of Matt Wood, and that gives the driver behind him, Benjamin Zocco, an opportunity going into turn 1.
Zocco takes a peek, looking down to the inside. Price does not defend, but he chops him off at the apex, feeling safe there. You saw in that screen as well, not just the lockup, but the gap that Ove Trangerade starts to pull on Matt Wood. Would probably like the win, but if he wants that dual championship between the Lotus 79 and Lotus 49, he might just sit back in that second place. Understand that we had a problem with Bruno here, potentially.
Yeah, Bruno's sitting in the pit at the moment. He was going through turn 2, very close with Eugenio Massa. Ooh, there was a car coming back across the track who had problems before. I think it was Tony Tiolis.
Oh, yeah, Tiolis must have lost it under power. Easy to do that out of that slow corner. No downforce on these cars and an immense amount of power. Here we're going to watch the number 14. Trees going to get a little bit in the way. There we go. Yep, just got a little loose, and unfortunately the wall bounced him right back on track. So Tolis and Bruno, unfortunately, early victims, have to sit and take some repairs if they want to get back into this race. That leaves us with 16 cars out on track, but up front, our leader now nearly a second ahead of Matt Wood.
Ovid Trangrade really putting the hammer down and showing that he was the quickest car in practice and is probably the quickest car in the race as well. And behind him, there's a big battle going on between Benjamin Soko and Nunez. Nunez having a great run, able to pass the Australian to take back P4 that he lost at the start. Oh, but it goes a little bit wide there. Out of turn 2. Overshoots the corner and that loses him 2 positions immediately. Benjamin Soko and Gary Till getting past the Iberia driver. Nunez immediately relegated to P6.
1 step forward, 2 steps back. You got to be pinpoint perfect around this track. Already some drivers struggling in these slower corners, which doesn't surprise me too much around here, Johan. I remember my time in this car. One difficult thing about this track is the fact that you're in the lower gears so often.
Yeah, especially you could see that with the crash of Tony Teolis as well. It's just so difficult to put the power down. The car gets really squirmly anytime you put the power down and you turn the wheel even slightly. So in a street circuit like this, it's really difficult to keep the car on the asphalt. And
I was going to say, let's jump back to Mick Claridge because he hasn't been making forward progress. He's trying right now on Matt Wright. He's got the inside and the casino hairpin, and that's going to bump him up to 8th position at least, but since the start, instead of going forward, he's gone backwards.
Yeah, he was 9th for a little while. He started, of course, in 8th position. Now with that overtake on Matt Wright, he is currently in the same position as he started in. And it will be curious to see if he is able to close that 1 second gap to the Canadian Richard Morin in front. Now Richard Morin is battling quite heavily, or was battling quite heavily with Nunez, but not able to follow the Iberian driver so far.
We're seeing some damage on the front of Claridge's car. Not sure if he got into somebody else or maybe clattered one of the curbs a little too hard. There are some tall sausage curbs as he gets a good run on Morin and makes short work of him. Heading down into turn 3. Not often you see passes into there, but he makes it work.
Yeah, Richard Morin had a little bit too much speed going into turn 2. He wasn't able to hug the apex and just, couldn't, because of that, go on the throttle as early as Mick Claridge, and that really helped him, gave Mick Claridge the opportunity to take P6.
So move Claridge actually up to 7th, I'm seeing.
Sorry,
yeah. But the way that he is slicing through cars now, I wouldn't be surprised if he's up to 6th very soon. Nunez, the next one on his list, and he's basically got a line of cars that he can just Pac-Man through with Thiel and Zoko right in front of him.
The quick update regarding Andres Bruno, who we saw tangle heavily with Tony Teolis earlier in the race. Andres Bruno has left the session, so I think he had too much damage to continue his car. Tony Teolis is still sitting in the pits waiting for repairs.
There is that Honda liveried Lotus 49 up at the front of Ove Trangrade. Now is extended up to 1.5 seconds over Matt Wood. And you talked about the difficulty in putting the power down. That's one thing that I do think translates from the Lotus 79, but almost nothing else. So that's what amazes me about Wood being so good in both cars here, Johan.
It shows that he has a tremendous skill to be able to just drive two cars that are so different from each other this quick and such high level. That just shows that you are a very good sim racing driver. Matt Wood doing well so far, as you said, and even the last lap around managed to close the gap to Ove Trangrade by a few tenths of a second. So it might be that Matt Wood is trying to get into a rhythm now and close the gap to the Norwegian in front of him.
As fast as that last lap was not the fastest lap of the race so far. I believe Trangrade holds that. He's got a 33.1 as his fastest lap, 2 tenths faster than Wood's fastest lap. Well, what has been happening with Mick Claridge since he made his way past Morin? He's still about a second back from Nunez. In fact, Nunez getting very close to Thiel right now. If those two start battling, that will definitely help the Englishman in this battle.
Yeah, Mick Claridge was extremely close to Nunez on start-finish line, but he made a mistake in turn 5, went really loose, kept it out of the wall, but he lost a lot of time, as you can see by the gap. Now Nunez is putting the pressure on Gary Thiel in front of him. has been almost as quick, and you could see Nunez was P4 in qualifying. He does have the speed to pass Thiel in the race, but not able to put his car side by side yet. Behind them, Mick Claridge though has a great run out of the last chicane. Immediately putting it on the inside for turn 1. Nunez braking a little bit earlier, letting Mick Claridge pass. Textbook maneuver there for Mick Claridge to make the pass in turn 2.
Incredibly late braking. You saw just how he zoomed by there in the slowing zone. So now next up is, whoa, as he goes way wide on the entry into 3. He gathers it up through 4 to keep it out of the wall, but what was close to Gary Thiel has slipped backwards yet again. Might want to pull up the replay on that one as we didn't quite have it on screen. Let's see if we can watch on board. Wow, he was way off the apex on that first one, but did a beautiful job recovering.
Yeah, that could have gone way worse there for Mick Claridge if he wasn't able to catch it like that.
Meanwhile, remember, Michael Morrison had that slowdown on lap 1. Well, he just overtook Hideki Koivisto to get himself at least back up into the top 10.
And he's quick, Michael Morrison. He was over a second quicker than Koivisto last time around. I think that if he maybe is able to keep these lap times, he might be able to battle his way a little bit more forward than he currently is.
He's probably ruined what could have been with the good pace that he has today. Up at the front, things have been changing. It was at a second and a half. Well, Matt Wood has settled into this race because it's now chopped down to under a second. And as I say that, it goes up just a little bit. That might just be the corner. See if it comes back down. It was at 7/10. It comes down a little bit. So it is yo-yoing back and forth at quite a quick rate, honestly.
I said this a few laps ago as well, that I look behind Mick Claridge almost hitting the back of Gary Thiel. Oh, we see a spinner. Nunez is off.
Oh, and he gets the wall a little bit as well. And the car behind him spins, so I want to stick with this. That's Matt Wright. This is on replay. Yeah, that started with Claridge trying to gather the car up. You can see him start to spin, and poor Nunez, he goes off track. Now, when he comes back on, the car behind Wright gets thrown off, and he turns it around.
A whole cackle of incidents as we go on board now with Matt Wright to see the incident.
Yeah, these Lotus 49s looking a little bit more like dominoes. As one after another, they each spin out of control because of the incident ahead of them. Wright gets it going and continues on, but unfortunately now sits in 11th.
Mick Claridge, though, is extremely close to Gary Thiel. He's going to the last chicane at the moment, just a few tenths between the two drivers. Now, if he's able to get a good run here out of the last chicane, he will be able to put it side by side going into turn 1. Oh, he gets a little wiggle there. And that's so dangerous, because if that wiggle is a little bit heavier than that, you are in the wall of champions. Now, he managed to keep it out of there, but it ruins his chances to try and overtake for P5.
Stays right on the gearbox, and you were watching a lot of drivers do that in practice, not successfully, where they overcorrect on those sort of bobbles.
Yeah, that was something that I noticed in practice, exactly like you say, Joe, that drivers were very loose in corner exit when they go on the throttle, but not able to catch the car every time. And not only in the Wall of Champions, there were several other corners as well, as we see side by side here.
Yeah, Mick Claridge dove to the inside down into 6. Gary Thiel is not able to hold him back. He's going to try and come back at him. Into 8, though, on the Riverside stretch. Takes a look, but Mick Claridge is too late on the brakes and fends him off to keep 5th place for now.
Yeah, Gary Thiel has to try and stay on the gearbox over Mick Claridge now, because Mick Claridge is making his way to Benjamin Soko. And once the British driver is there, maybe Gary Thiel can try to stay behind him and make a move on Benjamin Soko as well.
I don't think he's even worried about looking into his mirrors, because right now he's sizing up the Australian ahead of him in the number 6 to see if he can get to 4th. And after that, it's going to be a little bit longer climb to get up to Dave Price. There's a whole 5.5 seconds between the podium and Zoko. Owen Good has an off. This is down through turn 9.
Just a little bit too much speed into the corner. Not able to stay on the track there. Several cars behind him as well going off.
This Massa looks like the same corner. It's a little squirrely on entry. Gathers it. Everybody has separate incidents in that same corner. All right, that was interesting.
I think Massa was of course just behind Dongut, and he just might have followed his braking point a little bit and overshot the corner for the same reason because of that.
And Mick Claridge has made short work of Zoko, and Zoko goes very defensive down the backstretch, under the bridge, braking for 8. This is where we saw mistakes before. These two, no such problems, but how about the Australian? Wow, robust defense to keep Claridge back.
Yeah, he really cut Mick Claridge off there, but he had all the right to. He was completely in front of Mick Claridge, now in the hairpin. He defends the inside. That probably gives Mick Claridge the opportunity to get a better exit out of the corner. He does. He immediately takes a look on the inside. Benjamin Soko defends though. Gives him a little bit of room on the last moment, and Mick Claridge should have it now going into the Wall of Champions. He has slightly more speed and he has the inside of the corner. And with the way that Mick Claridge has been under braking, extremely strong. Making the pass there for P4.
Oh, just clinical stuff there from Mick Claridge, getting it done. Poor Zoko tried to shut the door after the horses had bolted, but fair game to Ben. He let him through once he saw that he had a nose in. So Claridge up to 4th and now has 6.5 seconds up to Dave Price with that back and forth that he had with Zoko. How about Dave Price as well? A very quiet race here after a challenge into the first corner on wood, but since then, he's been holding down this podium spot all by himself.
Yeah, and he currently has almost a 7-second, or he has a 7-second gap to Mick Claridge. So I'll be curious to see, with only 10 laps to go, he can lose around 7/10 per lap and still be in front of the British driver. That's quite a comfortable position he is in, but he really has to focus and make sure that he doesn't make any mistakes, if he wants to get that podium today.
Checking on the pace of Price versus Claridge. Now, it's a little harder to tell since Claridge has been battling, but even with the passes that Mick has been making, I'm seeing that he's a few tenths faster. But as you said, a few tenths is not going to be enough. He's in clear air now, and he's really going to have to put the hammer down.
Exactly. Well, on screen we see Matt Wood putting the hammer down, really close over Trangrade. Only a few tenths between the two drivers, 6-7 tenths. I think Matt Wood, if he's able to try and make sure that he puts a few of these laps down there, he can try and move on the Norwegian driver.
Yeah, this has been holding station, this gap, at about that 6 or 7 tenths for a while now. But the one thing we've seen about Trangrade over the season, especially over this series for multiple seasons, he can be a little bit prone to mistakes, a little inconsistent as he makes one now, heading through 3 and 4, and that closes Matt Wood in down 2 more tenths. So I don't know about Ove Trangrade coming away with Wood being so consistent.
No, exactly. It's almost a very interesting race between consistency and raw speed. Ove Trangrade has shown in qualifying and in the race so far that he probably has a little bit more speed over a lap. But as you say, Joe, that consistency, that's probably where it bites him. And he might be able to lose the race today. Matt Wood just really solid as we are on board of Ove Trangrade. You can see the orange and purple car behind him. And he's just solid, hitting every apex, going onto the throttle smoothly. And look how close he is in the hairpin now. Just a few car lengths between the two cars.
Will the Achilles heel of Ove Trangrade lose him another win? Can Matt Wood get his maiden victory here on the broadcast races? We're going to have 9 laps to go when we come across the line up towards the Wall of Champions. And both drivers clattering over the curb successfully. Wood looking that little bit faster through there, though, as he holds onto the gearbox of the Scandinavian down into turn 1 yet again. Now, the gap behind them between Price and Claridge has come down to 5.6 seconds. And clear air last time by 33.7 for the Brit versus 34.3 for Dave Price. So Oh, that's awful tight. That's about 0.6 a lap. That's right on the cusp.
Exactly, the two decided to make it as excitingly as possible. Probably if it continues like this, they will meet each other in the final lap of the race.
As we jump back down to 6, Gary Thiel and Richard Morin potentially in a nice little fight. The battle between the Canadian and the Virginia's driver could erupt any moment here now. Morin making a little bit of a mistake, though, loses time coming onto the Riverside stretch, and what was 0.6 now comes up to 0.9.
Richard Morin has been impressive. He was falling back down the field a little bit at the beginning of the race, but he has been solid, not making mistakes and really profiting of the mistakes of the likes of Nunez and just making up positions like that. And if you can just get that little bit of extra speed, just close the gap down to Gary Thiel, he might be down there for a P6 finish today.
Up at the front, Wood is as close as he's ever been, was down to 0.3 at one point. It is stretched back as Ove got a good exit out of the final corner. Laps are starting to tick down, and even if Wood gets up to him, we've seen some good passes here today, but it's from cars that are out of position, Johan, and I don't know about you, but I've always found it incredibly difficult to get passes done at this circuit in this car.
It is extremely difficult to make that pass, and you almost have to rely on the mistake of the driver in front of you and really capitalize on that. Because if you see the last time around, Matt Wood was only half a tenth quicker than Ove Trengerade. There's virtually nothing between these two drivers at the moment speed-wise. So if Matt Wood wants to go for the P1 position, Joe, I think he really has to be patient. Try to force Ove Trengerade in a mistake and be there once that happens to take that P1 position.
Well, he's holding right there behind him, poking and prodding as he gains under, breaking down into the hairpin, gains quite a bit, gets right under the gearbox, and as they accelerate away, he gained another 0.2 through that one corner. He's going to have a little bit of the slipstream down the back straightaway, along the rowing lake. He's already poking his nose in, taking a little bit of a look, but doesn't have a go down into this last corner.
Ove Trengerade doesn't have a good exit there, not a good corner. He slid a little bit for the first part of the World Champions. Oh, but Matt Wood has a slowdown, as you can see him increase the gap. I would be curious to see when he gets back on the throttle again, how big the gap is. It's currently 2 seconds, over 2 seconds.
Yeah, it's up to 4 seconds now I'm seeing on my screen that he has lost to Trengerade. That could be the race, but you just don't know until the checkered flag flies. If Trengerade makes a mistake, it's his own slowdown as well. That could bring Wood back into things.
Exactly. Matt Wood just has to make sure that he doesn't let the gap increase to Ove Trengerade and just slowly bite it back and maybe make Ove Trengerade a little bit nervous. But like Joe, this has put Ove Trengerade in a throne seat. He's comfortably leading over 3 seconds at the moment. I don't think that Ove Trengerade, if he doesn't make a mistake, he will win out there today. A little bit further behind, Dave Price has been slowly caught by McLaren. The gap between the two drivers is only just over 4 seconds at the moment, exactly 4 seconds.
Oh, and we had an incident with Max Demerik. That was not long ago, coming out of turn 2. There we see the end of the incident. Here we go. This is very similar to what we saw with Tony Tolis. Just getting on the power, and suddenly that car does not want to go straight.
Maximilian sitting in the pits at the moment. I think he has quite a bit of suspension damage, trying to repair that car, but with only 7 laps to go, I doubt that the driver will be able to make it out there again today.
And you can see Tony is still here. He's still in his car waiting for it to get repaired, seeing if maybe it could get some safety rating back after that being on the very early laps. Now we're watching the battle between Koivisto and Matt Wright. Wright, one of those drivers a little bit out of position, tries to gun down that Jordan liveried Lotus. And let's stay on this, but just an update on Mick Claridge. He's got the bit between his teeth. A little bit ago, he set his fastest lap yet at a 33.2. He is absolutely flying now that he's been freed up from traffic.
Yeah, but the problem is for Mick Claridge, he is not quick enough at the moment. Last time around, he was only 1/10 quicker than Dave Price, and that's not enough to close the gap to Dave Price.
I think he had a mistake because it was up to a 33.8, so that was 0.6 slower than what he did the previous lap. Price now currently has about 3 seconds back to Mick. 6 laps to go. It's now only about half a second per lap that Mick has to cut him down.
Now, Matt Wright, we were just talking about him in the battle with Hideki Koifisto. He's right on the gearbox of the Finnish driver now, going to turn 9. Koifisto taking a different line, defending a little bit, not that much on the ideal line on turn-in. That will cost him a little bit on exit. As you can see, Matt Wright under the bridge there, getting closer and closer. Will he try a move under braking, going into the hairpin? He does take a look. Hideki Koifisto does give him the space. Matt Wright making the move, but because of the wide line of Koivisto, he's immediately able to get the driver back there.
I think Wright's going to stay to the inside. He's going to have another go into this last chicane. You don't want to try and go side by side through there, especially in these cars. Incredibly difficult and very single file, and you can see he thinks better of it. He's going to stay back for now. Let's stay on this battle, but interesting note to make, Wood was 4 seconds before. Well, that's down to 2.2. So Matt has been regaining that ground.
Ovi Trangrade had a horrible lap last time around. He was 1.7 seconds slower than he normally was. He normally does 33.2 or 33.3. Last time around only a 35.0. So Ovi Trangrade probably made a mistake. And we were talking about that, Joe. If Ovi Trangrade doesn't make mistakes, he will win. But he is making mistakes out there. And the gap now to Matt Wood is only 2 seconds.
It could be tight here at the end. I said it. You just never know until that checkered flag falls. There we see our leaders coming through. I'm sure he's glanced in his mirrors, glanced his F3 box, and seen that that ground has been chopped away at bit by bit. 5 laps to go now in this race. And Ove Trangrade is responding. Fastest lap of the race. He dips into the 32s.
Yeah, impressive there from Ovi Trangrade. Really good lap time, and it will be interesting to see if Matt Wood is able to answer those kind of lap times. Matt Wood also doing his fastest lap of the race last time around. He did a 33.0.
Car's obviously burning off a little bit of fuel at a time, just like in 67. These cars do not refuel in the race. They go from beginning to end. That battle between Wright and Koivisto getting closer for 10th place, I should say. Matt doesn't have a go down to the first corner, but he's much tighter through the first apex.
Yeah, and I think he's quite a bit quicker as well than Hideki Koivisto. The quickest lap time around there of Matt Wright is almost a second quicker than Koivisto's. So Matt Wright does have the speed, but as we said before during the broadcast, Joe, it is one thing to get close, but on this track with these cars, it's really difficult to put it side by side.
And in the background, you may have noticed that was, in fact, Tony Tolis coming back out on track. So his fans can give a little bit of a cheer as he tries to finish off this race and take the checkered flag. Unfortunately for him, I don't think he's going to be able to overtake anyone, so he will finish in 17th. But we always like to give out that Dory Award for the driver that just keeps at it, and I think Tony should get that one today for coming out so late as we continue to watch this battle. And Matt Wood now sets the fastest lap up at the top as Wright takes a look but can't make the pass into Casino.
A good battle we haven't paid a lot of attention to is a little bit further down the field. Johnny Bell and Don Good. They've been battling for P13 out there. Johnny Bell just bested Don Good to take that position away from him. He's driving a little bit away now. Don Good being relegated to 14th position.
Johnny Bell, a bit of a newcomer in this series, but you know, I've noticed here, Johan, on his first race, he was way off the pace. He's been slowly moving forward every race, finishing a little bit higher and a little bit higher. This is great progress to see from the Pennsylvania driver.
Exactly. Like I'm looking at the championship standings, and he's 4 positions behind Don Good. And he's a new driver, as you said, but he's been slowly building up experience, and he's really profiting from that now, just getting better and stronger every race. With a 13th position out there, he gained 4 positions since the start. That's a good and solid performance out there from Johnny.
Well, he's the next car to go a lap down, because you can see Ove Trangerade is coming up behind. Oh, Ove really sliding it through that last chicane. Another mistake from the Norwegian.
He gets a slowdown. Matt Wood, Ove Trangerade has a slowdown, and Matt Wood is able to make that pass for P1.
We're going to watch that replay from above. I thought he was safe, but he cut it just that little bit too much. That second apex bit him. And this is going to allow Matt Wood to build himself a 1-second gap over Trangerade. He's been closing in. Now, can he stretch away?
Exactly. Matt Wood was able to put the pressure on over Trangerade the whole race, but now the roles are reversed, and Trangerade will be able to put the pressure on him. And Matt Wood is currently circling around Johnny Bell, the lap traffic.
We might...
Go ahead.
Sorry, we might want to get a replay. Matt Wright had a go at Koivisto into the hairpin, and they almost came to blows. Here we see them live. Let's take a look at what happened here. Just outbraked himself, and you can see Koivisto had to take evasive action, but he still came away with the position despite all that. Finn saw him coming, gave him space, and then had to go, oh, and he still didn't give him enough. Gets the run off the corner and stays ahead.
And still, Koivisto and Matt Wright are extremely close, still in a heavy battle for P10. Matt Wright having a great run out there, almost hitting the back of Koivisto and the blind right-hander. Just able to avoid the two.
Oh, Ove having yet more problems. That car not looking good out of the final corner. Did he actually hit the wall?
No, he avoided the wall, but that's not good for the car. Clobbering the curb stones like that as we go on board. You can see him just not able to control the car under braking, just sliding over those curb stones. It has increased the gap immediately to almost 4 seconds.
Yeah, and the good news for him is that Dave Price is so far back, he's going to hold on to second for now. We are on the white flag lap, and we wondered if Mick Claridge could catch Price. He's within a second, but I think he's not going to have enough opportunities to try and seal the deal.
I don't think so either. Dave Price just have to put the focus down. He just has to not make any mistakes today. Just do what he has been doing so far, and he will take home the P3 position. With 1 second behind Mick Claridge, won't be in the position to make that overtake for the final podium spot.
But we are watching Matt Wood. We've been waiting for this moment. I don't think we've seen him win over in the Lotus 79 on the broadcast, so this will be extra special for him. As he comes around the hairpin for the final time, he can put the power down this backstretch. That's Eugenio Massa just ahead of him. Let's see if he'll pull over and let him through. Indeed, he does. Going to let our leader on by. Matt Wood up to the wall of champions. He's got a handy lead over Trangerade. He can take this nice and easy, cleanly through that last corner. And across the line, Matt Wood is going to take the win here in round 9.
Now, Ove Trangerade does manage to secure P2 position. Behind him, Dave Price has a horrible exit out of the wall of champions. Mick Claridge is able to put it side by side, going over the finish line, but not enough.
Oh.
Just a nose, I would say, in front. Dave Price gets that P3 position.
Battle for 10th. This is for pride, as they do have points below that. As Matt Wright continues to hound Hideki Koivisto. This is his last chance, but boy, that Finn got in a phenomenal run off of the hairpin. Unless he makes a serious mistake in the last chicane, that is job done for Koivisto.
Yeah, but as you could see with Ove Trangerade, with Dave Price, a mistake here under pressure in the last lap is easily made. Koivisto getting 1, getting 2 parts of the chicane, getting a great exit out there. Matt Wright has no chance to try and move there before the start-finish line. Hideki Koivisto finishing in P10 out there.
Great job. Let's watch that replay for Price, though, at the line. We wondered how close it was going to be, and the answer is very close, about half a car length. the mistake, let's see, I actually missed this myself. This will be my first time seeing what exactly happened to Price through that last chicane.
You know, I don't think that it was necessarily Dave Price making a mistake. I just think it was Mick Claridge getting a superb run over those curbstones and just able to take so much more speed onto the straight and almost making the move because of that.
Oh, that's got to be gutting for Mick Claridge. But have to remember, that was with his injury. So still a great run. Won't hurt him too much in the championship. With that, we're going to take a break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We're going to come back with the official results as well as driver interviews. And on screen in between that, you'll see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. We just watched round 9 in the Lotus 49 World Cup. Matt Wood gets his maiden victory here on the broadcast races. Boy, I hope he comes back because he has shown to be a real force. And Ove Trangerade is going to finish second after multiple mistakes cost him today. Dave Price barely snuck through with a podium, battling back Mick Claridge, who had to come back from his own early mistake and a bad qualifying. He still gets a 4th today, having started in 8th. Ben Zocco going from 5th to 5th. Can't complain about that. Gary Teal finishing behind him in 6th position. And Richard Warren, what a great race for him today. He gets a 7th place. Jin Ruiz Nunez is going to finish in 8th. He started 4th. It has just been almost a reverse of Mick Claridge there for Nunez. Unfortunately, he'll have to work on that. We're not used to seeing him here in this series. I'm sure he's got a lot to learn. Michael Morrison gets a 9th, and Hideki Koivisto rounds out our top 10, Johan.
Yeah, Hideko Kaviso battling hard with Matt Wright out there. Matt Wright just finishing outside the top 10 in 11th position. Eugenio Massa was the first driver out that was lapped out there, completing the race in 12th position. Now Johnny Bell, we were talking about him, he had a good race out there. Together with Mick Claridge, the hard charger of today, gaining 4 positions compared to his qualifying position and finishing in 13th. Done good, winning 2 positions to come home in 14th in front of Robert Reynolds. And then there were 3 drivers which had problems out there. Maximilian de Meyrick, Tony Tiolis and Andres Buno saw their races end in the straight after turn 2.
Mick Claridge has come and joined us. I hope we get Matt Wood in here. Matt, if you're listening, definitely come and talk to us. But in the meantime, let's talk to our 4th place driver. And, well, first question I have for Mick is, how you feeling, bud?
Oh, hi, Joe. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good, mate. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Understand that had a bit of an accident with your bike out there and was dealing with some injuries today. Is that what caused you to qualify poorly? Was the mistake due to just getting used to the wrist?
No, not at all. No, I was just telling that to Gary because he was asking about the wrist. And no, it's not nothing whatsoever to do with it. My wrist only hurts if I have to really correct the car, really badly. And I mean, I didn't have to in that race, not at all, not even in qualifying. No, I hit the old world famous Wall of Champions. I just breezed it on the first lap and with a back wheel. And the second lap, I think I just went straight through the chicane under the bridge. I can't remember now. I think it was, but yeah. So it was a really slow lap. So yeah, no, it was good fun. Playing with the boys and trying to catch up with Dave. That was good fun.
It was incredibly close there at the end. Once you had gotten past into 4th and saw the gap up to Dave, did you think it was possible to run him down, or were you kind of resigned to 4th at that point?
When I was behind Gary and Ben, I was looking at the gap to Dave and I was thinking there's no way I'm going to get that. So I'll just be settled. If I can get in front of Ben and get a gap, then I'll be happy with that. But then, I don't know, I just sort of thought to myself, I should try and push anyway because, this track's so easy to get a slow down on, like I got a slow down. I mean, one was horrendous, so I just sailed straight through the brake zone. But yeah, no, I thought, no, it's better to push, just in case Dave has a problem or even the other guys have a problem in front of him,
Absolutely. Well, you'll still get a 4th, and that will keep you safe in the championship, especially with Billy Bob not being here today. This is one of the few times you haven't won this season.
Well, no one's perfect, mate.
Obviously. Well, it seems like we've got nobody else here to talk to us. So you'll have to talk to the guys and also talk to Matt and get him to come in and tell us about his win this week when he comes back next week.
That's all right. You can ask me anything you want. Ask me some more questions, mate. I don't have to be nothing to do with racing.
Well, Johan, do you have anything for Mick? We haven't got anybody for you here today.
Yeah, that's fine. So Mick, we've given you several nicknames this season. What's the nickname that you get from the guys over there? Is it Mick the Quick?
No, do you know what? Because I play drums in a band, and obviously my name's Claridge. Everyone calls me the Ridge on the tour scene, and out in London and all the rest of it when I'm playing, the Ridge on drums. So that's that's what I normally go by.
I see. Well, that's something that we haven't used out there this season, Joe. I think Mick the Ridge. Yeah, I like that one. We have to start using that out there.
Take it to the Ridge.
Well, you certainly like to drive it on the edge as well, so that'll be appropriate. Again, nicely done recovering from a bad qualifying today, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, cheers, guys. Thanks a lot.
All right, that was Mick the Ridge Claridge, who finished 4th today. And as we said, nobody else waiting for us in the interview, so I guess we are closing it up today. And of course, we want to thank Ben Zilko and all the drivers in the Lotus 49 for gathering together and bringing us back for yet another season here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast. You can see them listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde to provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Johan, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel. We're on Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and then Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget as well, you can head on over to our YouTube page if you aren't there already. There's a big red subscribe button. Make sure and hit that so that you can get all the notifications of the races that we broadcast here on the GSRC. The next race, we're heading across the pond one more time. We're going to Silverstone. And they're running, of course, appropriately, the historic layout over there. Now, that is Saturday, May 19th, 1 week from now. That'll be at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.